Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start recording. Here we are preparing for an entente. First, we're gonna teach you how to do entente.
Alright, you said you'd taken a longsword class a few years ago for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember?
Not a whole lot. On the safe side, I would say honestly, basically nothing.
You ever fenced?
Once or twice. And that was in college.
Okay.
Okay, so do you remember just like the basic grips?
A thumb grip.
So pretty much just like for the top hand in of itself. You got your handshake grip, has the most range, most finesse. There's a hammer grip, has the most structure, mostly for parrying. Because again, doesn't have as much reach. And then because we use Joachim Meyer's Art of Combat, it's also a thumb grip. So pretty much use your thumb to push it 90 degrees in your hand. You know, you can do these motions here. So, not turning your wrist, just turning the sword in your hand.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's more turning your arm or shoulder.
Okay. So you can then do stuff like this work.
Other way around, would you be? Yep, like that.
With the
Not bad, actually.
back edge, and then you can rebound.
Though you'd want to swap feet when you're on that side. Yeah, like that, yeah. Yeah, that. Exactly like that. More or less. Make sure you bend at the knees, though.
As high as possible as well.
The sword, that is.
So then it's harder to go after your hands.
Yep, down like that.
Yeah.
So you want the
it's
sword to be
usually a
low.
headshot.
Yeah. But in case they just decide to strike at you too, you want to have your sword covering sort of your closest part, your arm basically. That might be a little confusing though. Yeah.
So for a lot of our cuts to actually count, we want to have enough follow through, so we're not just stopping here a lot of the time, unless it's like on the head or a hand, you need less follow through. But in general, you want enough rotation, at least 45 degrees of rotation through the target. You're not just landing on top of the target, you're actually going through it.
Yep. Generally 45 degrees is best achieved by like either you're gonna swing with your wrist and your arm and your torso, or oddly, your wrist and your torso. So that way you get a good cut and good structure.
Your core should be providing most of the power, whereas your arms are mostly aiming.
Yep. Ideally all three, yeah. Do you want to cover a thrust too?
Yeah, thrusts are very easy to count because again, it's all that force concentrated on a single point. But ideally, you want to see the sword bend a little bit when you hit.
Or a lot.
And then you pretty much want to constantly be changing between guard positions. You can like turtle up and come in here like this, but by and large, you're wanting to be transitioning through each guard. Like the guard position should really be the apex of your preparation. So you're going to want to be constantly moving between guards to leave your opponent guessing what you're about to do until you actually do it. So there's a lot of flow.
And a lot of it you'll pick up by watching him or me do it as well, because there are a few number of guards, and going through them would probably be a little bit hard to follow.
The most basic 3 guards are also going to be spots, like basically transitions through a basic overhead cut. So starting from, this is pretty much the most used guard. So on your right side, your arms should be crossed a little bit, but your wrists should be crossed a little bit. You want the point up ahead of you, blocking off this upper
Yep.
right. Blade up. So edge up.
Yeah.
Higher than that.
And then lower the tip of your
My
blade.
hands are above
Yep.
my head. So this is Ox Guard, right Ox. It is pretty much what most moves in Meyer start from. And then from there, you whip around into long point, and then step on contact and drive through into Fool's Guard.
And long point will get you the most distance between you and your opponent, usually. Unless you're lunging, but lunging also makes you somewhat vulnerable.
So at any time in this transition, you can stop at long point and drive into a thrust. So don't think of the guard positions as stances so much as transition points. They do cover you. Like if I'm in Ox and you try to attack my upper right side, you won't be able to do it. My sword's in the way. But then at the same time, I can parry anything coming from my lower left by cutting into it.
And that's, a lot of that's about understanding the guards and what they do and how they can be used from where you start at, or where your opponent starts at.
Yeah, there's a lot of using an attack as a defense. So this whole cut here closes off this whole right side and leaves the only opening my upper left side, which means that if I cut to left Alber and then jump up, I'm probably going to parry my opponent's attack, because that's the most viable spot for them to attack.
Yeah. And also, let me, I'm gonna just, this might also be good with the demonstration as well, of just like what he's talking about. So if he does that maneuver as well while I'm thrusting, it's a great defense like that.
Yep.
So that's also how you'd use it defensively, because you can attack and or defend with the same motion or maneuver. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Mostly it's just a matter of distance.
In fact, Wrath Cut, which like looks super basic, comes from Wrath Guard. Looks super basic, but it's considered one of the master cuts because you can beat aside your opponent's attack and put yourself online for a thrust, like I said before. So, basic principles. The guards are transition points that you can use to defend yourself. Try to, when you're attacking, step offline as much as possible, because it's a lot easier for you. It's a lot harder for your opponent to attack you as a follow-up if you overhear than if you're still standing in front of him.
And also, we should clarify, by guards, we don't necessarily mean defensive actions. we mean stances from which you can either attack or defend. It's sort of like watching positions almost. So guard itself, usually you won't just defend from a guard without moving actively.
All right.
Here, let
Start off.
me set this down real quick.
Start off easy.
Yep.
Then after today, I can send you the channel group that I mostly watch to get my techniques from, and you can start practicing that stuff at home.
Skullgrim and such. And Robin swords, etc. On guard.
All right, and you also want your feet as wide apart as possible, because another thing is that there's a lot of momentum going into this, so your feet want to be constantly moving as well as your arms.
And you want to bend your knees as much as possible because it gets you the most distance. It's a weird thing, actually, but it will, if you bend your knees, the more you bend your knees, the further your strike will go if you lunge or cut.
Ideally, almost 90 degrees, but you can build up to that.
Yeah, definitely. It can be a pain at first.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone ready? On guard.
Get your point towards me more.
Extend your arms a little bit. Elbow, yeah.
You should be pointing at me. Don't grip the sword too tight, and you'll be able to move it more flexibly.
Okay. On guard. Ready. Fence. Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay. Good. On guard. Ready. Fence. Make sure your sword is, your guard is, yeah, like that, yeah. On guard. Ready. Fence.
That was your hand? Alright.
You good?
Front pressure keeps.
Let me fix that. I'll just loosen it a little bit. Okay, that should help a ton. It'll be a lot easier now. Let me know if it's too loose though. Better?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. On guard. Ready. Fence.
You'll notice how I'm adjusting my guard depending on where yours is. So I'm covering which line I think your attack might come from, most likely. Might start being a little more aggressive to me.
There's also the idea of winding and binding where your swords touch and you can get an idea what your opponent's going to do. Exactly. It's tiring, huh?
Yeah.
Especially in the heat.
So what I did to you is called zucken, where just hold it out, put pressure. I feel that pressure, so I know you're going to go that way. So I'm just going to pull away and let you keep going while I attack you.
And guard. Ready. Fence.
Nice. So when you parry, just like that, you want my ideal strike point on my blade is right in the upper third, because that's moving the fastest, but it also has the least leverage. Whereas down here, if you catch my upper third near your bottom third,
You have a
you'll
lot
be able
more
to do
leverage.
whatever you want to my sword, right? Without much effort.
Vice versa.
Just let me demonstrate between my fingers. Yeah, we're going to try that down here. Yeah, feel that difference. Good old torque.
And guard. Ready. Fence.
That was flat. No good on my part.
That's also one thing. You want to make sure you got edge alignment.
Feel
Meaning-
which way your edge is pointing with your handle.
Yep. So always a rectangular handle. Usually. I have seen some rather fun examples of circular handles that have been torn apart by online commentators. There we go.
So what I did there is, in addition to manipulating the weak of your blade, I also got an overbind. So ideally, where you want to be, you hold out your sword, is my strong on your weak on top. Because now I have a clear line of attack.
Well, you're also out of the way.
Yeah.
So you want to be on the outside. They want you on the outside, or
Right?
well, it depends on that. But
Yeah, if I have an overbind from this side, step over here, there's not much you can do about it except zucken, dip. Either pull back entirely or dip under. Yeah.
well, you can also angle your blade if you know what you're doing, but that's a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, your leverage will also be stronger in this direction, towards the edge, than it will be towards the flat, because these are flexible. So as soon as I bend it, that spring motion is going to push all the way down here on your hand.
And guard. Ready. Extend your elbows from your body a little bit. Yep. And pull your a little bit more in front of you as opposed to on your side.
So I'm in plow guard, which is very close up.
Yeah, I have the same problem. You good? You want to get your chin? Yep.
So I prefer a lot of more retracted guards, like plow and key. I love key. Key is very fun. But For the sake of teaching, I'm going to try to go into more extended positions.
Yeah, because those are more defensive, give you more distance between you and your opponent,
And
etc.
more basic, more easy to understand.
Yes.
So, long point. You want to be pretty much holding it straight down.
Yeah, and you want to have as much distance between you and your opponent as possible when you're in long point.
Got yours really sideways there. It should be in line with your arm.
Other arm.
Your front arm.
So from that stance, you'd actually be wanting to be more like this. So you want to face this way towards him.
Let me actually deglove here and show you more
Yeah.
detail. So you've got yours more like that. You want it to be down here. So your grip should be underneath your arm, pretty much. Because that's going to put it with the structure of your forearm.
Gotcha.
Whereas here, like, it feels more intuitive, but because like you would hold a hammer like this. But you have a lot more dexterity this way because your index finger is right underneath the that thin part of the handle, and then your thumb can push to the outside. And you have a lot of fine control over that point.
And you'll do a lot of that, especially in fencing, but even with like side sword especially.
Whereas this way, it's a lot more locked in, inflexible. You can't really do much with this. You would have to use your wrist entirely.
Yeah, it's interesting because there are always pros and cons to any decision you make with the sword. Ways it can be helpful, ways it can be used against you.
So in order to more easily and then also, you're in a better position then to switch to the thumb grip and back. So you're using all of your fingers to make this transition. This is something you can do with pretty much any, like you can do this with your kitchen knife. Just gonna sit there, go back and forth between these. You're pushing it aside with your thumb while pushing your thumb, like thrusting your thumb forward. So then it's actually on the flap of the blade.
It's also a lot harder to do with gloves on.
Yeah. So then you have even more fine point control because now your blade is going to point pretty much wherever your thumb points.
Also, let us know if you like get too tired. By the way, it's been about 20 minutes now,
Yeah.
so
Has it really?
yeah. Albeit that's also the instruction a little bit into like getting stuff on. Yeah. Whenever you need to tap out, no shame in any of it.
Can I do some practicing without the gloves? Is that-
I would not recommend that. Unless you're like,
you can do some light drill work, like no contact shit.
yeah. Because like I've broken a bone doing that before. Ever since then, we've had that as a rule. But if you want to like practice thumb grip, that's perfectly fine to do without a sword or without gloves.
Can't quite
Nope.
see what I'm doing.
You're good.
So the back of the handle should be like nice pressed up against this big thumb pad you got there. And then the flat of it is pretty much resting entirely on the flat of your palm. also easily transition back and forth between this kind of hammer grip and then just kind of let it fall into the handshake.
It's a little bit more controlled than that, though. This is about the handshake. You don't want to let it down all the way to here where it's slapping on your forearm pommel.
So it should pretty much be almost completely, it's hard to see on mine because it's curved, but should be as parallel to your forearm as possible most of the time. Like in most resting positions, like even ox should be barely be an angle. And we're not like extending the wrist,
Right.
because that can
That can damage you.
that'll rip some of these tendons right up.
It's not quite straight as narrow, but it's more like a bow almost, like a or a
And then
Very
and then finally, if you
just
don't really
triangle.
grip it too tightly, because then again that'll let you be more controlled. Whereas if it's too tight, you don't really, it doesn't have any space to go anywhere.
Also, if you are holding it really tightly and I decide to whack your hand or whack your sword with mine, that's a very good way to be disarmed or at least get very much off center.
So you should kind of be able to fit your pinky in between the grip and these first two fingers.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The last two fingers, rather. Then again, that's space for it to go into. Right. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and walk you through a pretty basic parrying drill where I'm going to come at you like this and like this, and you're going to, in response to the first one, you're going to be here, and you're going to step back and catch it.
So pivot your torso.
On your left. You see how straight my arms are?
Other way around. Yep.
So this is your ox guard, and that is going to catch this cut. So I'm starting my ox as if I had just parried you. And then we're going to cut here. And then other side.
So you just switch it. Yep.
There you go. And now you cut at me from the top. So you're going to start in your cross ox and go around, almost like a Mullinayan saber.
We want to keep the edge alignment.
Yep. You try to keep your, when you step, your front toes will land pointed towards me, and your back toes will twist away.
That's how you get the torso into it.
So, from my cross ox, other side, you cut at me.
Like that, yeah, that's the great footwork.
Yep.
Then do the opposite.
Other side. So it's going to be cut, and then another big round circle, and cut. Meyer is all about that flow. It's almost like he wants you to use the long sword kind of like a great sword. As many big circles as possible. There's even this. You come up with the back edge and then go around and do another cut. It's a lot of spinning of the sword in mire. Never spin yourself. I will stab you in the back.
Yeah,
Off
don't.
spin.
Yeah.
All right. Cut at me from to my left, my right, round in a circle. Almost. So let's work in the same direction this way. So, right, left.
Yes.
Think about it as your size for this. Right, left, right.
Yes. Exactly.
So you're circling around to one side of your head.
A little bit more pivot with it, but yeah.
Your backhand especially should be nice and loose
Yeah, he was flourishing his fingers, which is actually something you can do.
so it can easily. That was backwards. By and large, you should be stepping forward at the same side as you're cutting from.
At least with this drill, which is why they confuse me so much sometimes.
And actually, another note on footwork: you're not just stepping; you're using the rotation on your core to whip your foot pretty much. So, in addition
Sort of like
to
that,
moving
except
your
that's
knee and all that,
exaggerated.
twisting at the hips.
Yeah.
Your core is going to power your upper body and your lower body.
Ooh.
There's actually specifically a Scala Grim video on footwork that I can send to you as well.
Yeah, footwork is the most important part of this. If your feet aren't right, nothing else is.
So your ideal Zwerchhau, for example, isn't just going to be a cut like that, or even stepping forward. You're going to be triangle stepping. So this foot is going to come around and already be angled, pointed at your opponent as your back foot whips behind you. And when you swerve,
When you work.
when we're working on our vertical.
When you work and how.
You're not gonna stop it. You're just gonna let it keep going. It'll stop on its own. Your body's geometry will stop it.
And that's because you want to follow through even when you're striking anyone. So anticipate it stopping when you strike someone, but don't train as though it's stopping.
Your sword should not stop until it gets stopped, unless like you miss and need to redirect it somewhere.
Yeah.
If you're sure you've got that cut, drive it through.
Okay.
You want to go back into sparring?
If y'all end up doing that, I'm probably gonna head out. It's a little bit hot out.
I'm literally debating with myself. It's
Don't push yourself if you
my
don't need
tolerance
one
is
to.
not the best anyway.
I can go forever, but
Yeah.
if you need to call it, we can call it.
Yeah, I think I probably should.
Okay.
All right.